Mr. Chair, we are now live.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Ajax Committee of Adjustments for Wednesday, September the 27th. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustments is being held in person in Council Chambers at the Ajax Town Hall and is being live streamed also for the public viewing on the internet pursuant to the Committee of Adjustment terms of reference and meeting procedures. If we encounter any technical difficulties during the meeting, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved. Thank you for your patience, and we'll now proceed with the meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. And we would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather today is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of the Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Before moving on to the application portion of tonight's meeting, I'd like to confirm whether there are any disclosures of interest from any fellow members of the committee this evening. Seeing none, I'd like to now take a moment to see if there's a motion to be put forth by the committee members to adopt the meeting minutes from the previous meeting. That was from our last meeting in August.
Yeah, I'll move the motion to adopt the minutes from our meeting on August 30th, 2023.
Okay, perfect. Do I have a seconder?
Mr. Chair, I will second that motion with the caveat that post-meeting I'll be sending 2 very minor edits that are needed just to adjust the minutes. Nothing substantial, just 2 minor edits.
Okay, perfect. And any discussion on the motion? If not, can I get a vote in favor on your screens? And the vote has been carried unanimously. Thank you. I'd like to now quickly cover off the mandate of the meeting of the Committee of Adjustments. The committee is bound by the Planning Act to assess each application based upon its ability to meet 4 tests. 1, that the application is minor in nature. 2, it's desirable for the appropriate development of or use of the lands. And finally, in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The process for tonight's meeting will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant or the agent will be called upon. At their option, they may provide a brief description of the minor variance application that they have applied for. The committee members in front of you on the panel here this evening may ask questions of the applicant or the agent, after which anyone with a direct interest in the application will be given the opportunity to speak either for or against the application. Once a motion is put forward by a committee member, there will be no further input from the applicant or anyone having interest in the application. After a decision is made, a notice will be sent out and there will be a 20-day appeal period. The decision of the committee may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or a specified person or public body, as outlined in the Planning Act. Please note, however, that third-party appeals are not permitted. After 20 days, the decision will become final and binding. If a building permit or other approvals are required with the application, they may be filed during the appeal period. However, please note no permits or approvals will be issued until the appeal period is over and the decision becomes final and binding. A respectful decorum during this evening's proceedings is expected of all present at all times. I'd like to now take a moment to introduce you to the committee members presiding over the procedures this evening. From my furthest right, I've got Bernadette Santiago, I've got Brian Hayes, Ken Elliott, Thomas Boca, and I'm the chair of the committee, Wasif Ahmed. And to my left, we have from town staff, Sarah Moore, legislative specialist, Eric Simpson, who's a senior planner and secretary treasurer of this committee of adjustments, and Josh Estrella, a planner with the town of Ajax. Having said that, the first application for tonight's meeting is, as you can see on the agenda on the screen, is application A2923 for 67 Hanley Crescent as filed by Alpha Environmental. And this is to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance within the north interior side yard. With a minimum setback of 0.1 meters from the interior side lot line and a minimum aggregate setback between uncovered steps and an adjacent dwelling of 8.8 meters. Eric, can you confirm whether notice was served and were there any responses?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no responses were received.
Okay, and sir, I assume you're the applicant or agent?
Yes, I'm the applicant.
You're the applicant, okay, and your name again was?
Manraj Mangat.
Okay, Mr. Manga, can I just get you to sign in? There's a paper sheet there, I believe. If we can just get you to fill that in, including your email.
Mr. Chair, I believe we're dealing with A2523 at the moment. Okay, so my apologies.
Okay. We sure? Because I had 2523 on my agenda, but I was reading off the screen. 29 first? Okay. Okay, so 29 is first.
Okay, I have done that, sir.
Okay, perfect. So just before I give you the floor to perhaps give us a little bit of details about your project, what you'll notice on the screen here is a Town of Ajax report that was given to this committee members that does outline a recommendation, as you can see near the middle of the page, that the Committee of Adjustment approve this particular minor variance application based on five conditions rather. And they're again on the screen, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 67 Henley, as illustrated with the drawing submitted with this application, or this decision shall become null and void. That number two, that an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel to and from the uncovered steps be maintained at all times on the subject property, or this decision shall become null and void. That an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel to or from the rear yard be maintained at all times. That the owner applicant maintain existing drainage on the property, and that the owner applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the Town of Ajax's Building Services section, or this decision shall become null and void. Sir, are you familiar with these conditions, and do you acknowledge confirmation that you're okay with them?
Yes, I'm okay with them. Will abide them.
Okay, perfect. So I'll now give the floor over to you to perhaps tell the committee a little bit about your project.
Well, this is we will be making a below grade side entrance for a legal rental basement unit, and it's a part of that.
Okay. And construction has not yet started, correct?
No.
Okay, perfect. All right. Committee members, I'll look to you to see if you have any questions of the applicant. Okay, seeing none. Is there anybody in the audience that's either here to speak for or against this application? Again, we're on application A2923 for 67 Hanley Crescent. Sarah, is there anybody online, perhaps? No? Okay. Thank you for confirming. All right, seeing none, then I'll look to see if there's anybody from the committee that'd like to put a motion for application A2923.
Mr. Chair, I'll motion that we approve application A2923 for 67 Hanley Crescent.
Okay, can I get a seconder on that?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Bernadette. And is there any discussion on the motion that's put forth? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a vote. And the vote has been carried. So, sir, your application this evening has been approved by the committee, and you're now subject to the 20-day appeal period.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Have yourself a good evening.
Thanks, good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so moving along, then we'll go to application A2523. This is for 7 McGregor Drive, and the application is seeking. Sorry, are you able to just go back to the notice for me for a second on the screen? The agenda page, sorry. It's okay. I got it covered. So the A2523, this is to permit, for 7 McGregor Drive, this is to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance within the west interior side yard line with a minimum setback of 0.9 meters from the interior side lot line. Sorry, that's a mouthful. Eric, can you confirm whether notice was served and whether there were any responses?
Notice was served and no responses were received.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And sir, I'm assuming you're either the applicant or the agent?
No, I am the applicant, Zubair Bagia.
Okay. Nice to see you this evening, and I see you're already filling out the sheet.
Yes, I
Perfect. I'll give you a few minutes.
Okay.
Good to pull up the staff report. Okay. Sarah, can we just pull up the staff report now? Sorry. Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Zubair Baghe, as you can see, there's a staff report, a copy of the staff report that you see on the screen here.
Yep.
Copy of this was given to the committee members, and we were, as you can read, the Committee of Adjustments recommendation was to defer this particular application as it was submitted and amended by staff to a future Committee of Adjustment meeting. Have you received a copy of this report?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and are you in agreement with the deferral?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Is there anybody here to speak either for or against this application this evening? No? Okay. Can I seek a motion from my committee members to see if there's anybody that's willing to support with a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we defer this item to a future meeting date as recommended by staff in the staff report.
Okay, can I get a seconder on that?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Bernadette. Any discussion on the motion that's put forth? Okay, if not, then I'll look for a vote. And the motion has been carried, Mr. Zubair Baghe. So this will be deferred to a future meeting, and the town staff will be back in touch with you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay, we'll move along then. Thank you to application A2623 for 77 Hearst Drive. This is with DTEC Line International. The application is seeking a minor variance application to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance within the north interior side yard with a minimum setback of 0.2 meters from the interior side lot line. Is the applicant here this evening or an agent? Okay, do we have anybody online, sir?
Are you hearing me?
Oh,
Hello?
yes.
Yes.
Is this Mr. Allen?
Yes, this is Mr. Allen, Daniel Allen.
Okay, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
Nice to have you. Mr. Allen, so you're the applicant or the agent in this application?
The applicant.
Okay. So just before we proceed with you, I'm just going to ask my town staff to see whether notice was served for this application, A2623, and whether there were any responses received.
Notice was served and no responses were received.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mr. Allen, I'll maybe give you the floor to maybe tell us a little bit about your project. The one thing I will acknowledge, I'm assuming you can see this on your screen as well, that the committee is looking at a staff report that was prepared and given to the committee members that does recommend approval of this application based on 6 conditions, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 77 Hearst, and including with that is the illustrated on the drawing submitted with the application, that the owner applicant restore their driveway and or driveway adjacent walkway by bringing it to compliance within the Town of Ajax zoning bylaw 95-2003 as amended, that an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel to and from the uncovered steps be maintained at all times on the subject property, that an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel to and from the rear yard be maintained at all times on the subject property, that any existing utilities be relocated as necessary in consultation with the applicable utility agencies and the town's building services section to a location that does not impede access to or from the uncovered steps, and finally, that the owner applicant maintain the existing drainage on the property, and failure to comply with any of these conditions will render the decision null and void. Are you able to acknowledge and confirm that you're familiar with these and are in agreement?
Yes, in agreement.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll give you the floor, Mr. Allen, if you could tell the committee members a little bit about the project.
Okay, so the project is basically a side entrance, middle grade side entrance to the resident. It's just basically 2 steps to go down into the basement, and we also created another additional 2 other steps to go to the back. So the owners don't have to actually go into the neighboring property to go to their back. You can just simply go down and then go up to the back. And that's basically for I have for the presentation, just a basic side entrance, typical side entrance, middle grade.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen. I'll now look to my fellow committee members to see if there's any questions. Go ahead, Ken.
Mr. Chair, there are 7 recommendations. There are 7 recommendations, so we need to go to page 2.
Oh.
I don't have any questions about the application other than that.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Yes, Brian.
Hi, thank you. Through the chair. Mr. Allen, it states that the below-grade entrance is for the purpose of accessing just the finished basement. Is that correct?
Yeah, just accessing the resident, but right now the basement is unfinished. It's not finished. It's unfinished
Okay.
currently.
Okay, and you're also aware, as per the report, that that basement is not to be used as an accessory dwelling?
Yes, I've made that known already to the owners, and I'm aware of that.
Okay. And per the condition number 2, that's going to mean a somewhat significant change to your driveway. You're aware of that, correct?
Yeah, they have to restore whatever they put there back to its original. Yes.
Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Brian. Any other questions? No. Okay. Is there anybody here to either speak for or against this application? Either online or in person? Okay, seeing none, then I will look for a motion from my committee members. Brian?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept minor variance application A2623 for 77 Hearst Drive.
Okay, is there a seconder?
Mr. Chair, I would second it.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a vote. Okay, Mr. Allen, I have good news. The vote has been carried unanimously. So the application has been approved, A2623 for 77 Hearst Drive as presented. And it will be subject to the 20-day appeal period, as I mentioned at the top of the call.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, have yourself a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Okay, so we will now move to application A2723. This is for 20 Barnfield Crescent. And this is seeking minor variance in regards to permitting a minimum setback from the rear lot line of 5.1 meters and to permit a maximum lot coverage of 47%. Eric, can you confirm whether notice was served on A2723 and whether there was any response received?
Notice was served and no responses were received.
Okay, perfect. And is there an applicant or an agent here?
I'm the applicant.
Okay, you're the applicant. Thank you. And while we wait for you to just fill that out, we'll pull up on the screen the staff report for A2723.
Yep.
Okay, sir. So we, the committee members here, have received a variance, a staff report for this minor variance application, as you can see on the screen in front of us, and that report is recommending approval for your application, subject to 3 conditions total. One, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 20 Barnfield Crescent, and to the proposed building addition, substantially in accordance with the drawings that were submitted with this application and generally illustrated in the figures in the staff report. That the owner applicant maintain the existing drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void, and that the owner applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. Are you familiar with these conditions, and do you acknowledge confirmation? Are you okay with them?
Yes, I acknowledge them, and yeah, I'm okay with them.
Okay. And can I assume that you're Ryan Machado?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. So Ryan, I'll give you this a few moments to maybe tell the committee a little bit about your project.
Sure. What we're doing is we're just building a small addition on the back of our kitchen. It's no bigger than the deck that we have there now. So we're just applying for the variance just to, I think it's just an extra 2% of the setback of that property. So that's all we're really doing. It's a small little addition just so we can get into our backyard. That's about it.
Okay. All right. And can you confirm whether work has started on this project yet?
No, hasn't been started.
Has not.
No.
Okay, perfect. I'll look to my committee members, see if there's any questions. No. Okay. Is there anybody here in the audience or online that's here to either speak for or against this application? Again, we're on application A2723 for 20 Barnfield Crescent. Okay. Seeing none, then I'll look for a motion from my committee members.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve application A27-23, subject to all staff conditions on the basis that it is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development and use of the property, and in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Is there a seconder?
Mr. Chair, I'd second the motion.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Is there any discussion on the motion as presented? Okay, seeing none, then we'll look for a vote. Okay, so Mr. Machado, the motion has been carried. So your application at this evening's meeting has been approved, and it will now be subject to the 20-day appeal period, and after that it becomes final and binding.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll just hear back from them.
You will.
After the 20 days.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you do need building permits, you're able to apply for them while you're waiting in the next, call it 3 weeks almost, right? But you just will not receive them back. That's all. But
yeah, we already applied for them, and
perfect.
we got everything
You're ahead of the game.
set up. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Good luck with your project.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Do we need to stick
No,
free to go?
you're free to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
There is some entertainment value in what we do, but I'm, I'm sure it's probably not interesting enough. All right, so we'll now move to application A2823. This is for 97 Gerard View Street. And this minor variance application is seeking to permit uncovered steps leading to a below-grade entrance within the east interior side yard with a minimum setback of 0.2 meters from the interior side lot line. And Eric, can you confirm whether notice was served and whether there were any responses?
Mr. Chair, notice was served and no responses were received.
Thank you, appreciate it. Ma'am, I'm assuming you're either the applicant or the agent?
No, applicant.
The applicant, perfect. And you filled out the sheet already? Yeah, I'll give you a minute. Take your time. Okay, perfect. And can we just get your name for the records here as well?
Vasuki Mangaleswaran.
Okay, so Vasaki. So, ma'am, as you'll see on the screen here, the council here, the committee members rather, have a staff report that was prepared and given to us by town staff that does recommend approval of this application, subject to 6 conditions, as you can see them on the screen as well, that the subject variants apply only to the property municipally known as 97 Gerard View Street, and as illustrated in Figure 2, that was part of this package. Number 2, that an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel to and from the uncovered steps be maintained at all times on the subject property. 3, that an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel to and from the rear yard be maintained at all times on the subject property. Number 4, that an existing utilities be relocated as necessary in consultation with the applicable utility agencies and the town's building services section to a location that does not impede access to and from the uncovered steps. Number 5, that the owner applicant maintain the existing drainage on the property. And number 6, that the owner applicant obtain all necessary building permits from the town's building services section, and failure to meet these conditions will render the decision null and void. Are you familiar and okay with these conditions?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll give you a few minutes to maybe tell the committee a little bit about your project. What are you guys doing at 97 Gerard View Street?
Yeah, we're doing like a side entrance to our personal use.
Okay, so side entrance for personal
Side
use.
entrance, yeah.
Okay. And has construction started on this already?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'll look for to my committee members to see if there's any questions of the applicant. No? Okay. Let me just seek to see whether there's anybody either here online or in person to speak for or against the application A2823 for 97 Gerard View Street. Okay, so seeing none, then I'll look for a motion from my fellow committee members. Good, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we approve minor variance application A2823 for 97 Gerard View Street.
Okay, perfect. Can I get a seconder on that?
Mr. Chair, I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Tomas. And is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, then we'll look for a vote. Okay, perfect. So, Ms. Vasaki, your application has been approved at this evening's meeting, and it will be subject to the 20-day appeal period, after which the decision is final and binding.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. All right, so that completes, I believe, the application portion of this evening's agenda. Look for to see whether there's any other business by either staff or council staff committee members. Okay, seeing none, then I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I move motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Tomas. And Ken with a seconder.
I second the motion.
Perfect, thank you, Ken. And is there, okay, we'll move to vote. And the motion has been carried. So meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.